Hello everybody, this is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard, and today I'm going to share with you an investigation into, hopefully, the end of the reign of the reptilian elites. So, what is going to be happening on November 19th, 2021? There's going to be a lunar eclipse. And I was very interested in this lunar eclipse, being the Vedic astrologer that I am. And having listened to other Vedic astrologers saying that there's a lot of intense things that are going to be happening at the end of this year. And potentially some very dynamic, possibly some kind of protest, maybe even some kind of violence as a result of things that are happening astrologically that's going to bring up all kinds of unresolved issues that people will finally just have had enough. And that there's a likelihood that there will be some revelations in this next couple of months that will incapacitate the reptilian elite so that they can no longer control and dominate us. So this may be a very explosive time. And having done a little bit of research, I found out that on November 19th, 2021, when there is the lunar eclipse, this lunar eclipse, the moon is going to be conjunct the star Algol. So Algol is a fixed star, and it comes from an Arabic word, Algol, and it's the same word that we have in English. We took it from the Arabic. Ghoul means demon. And it's this star is specifically associated with Medusa. So Medusa, as you can see here, Perseus is holding her head. He has chopped off her head. And he is holding her eyes away from him because if you look directly at her, she will turn you to stone. So her gaze is so frightening and so powerful that even in death, all you have to do is hold her severed head up to any of your enemies, and just by seeing her eyes, you will turn to stone. So I started looking at that, and as you know, mythology, in my experience, is transmitted knowledge from the ancestors, and it is timeless. Now, historically speaking, whenever you have things associated with the fixed star Algol, you will have things associated with violence, with intensity, with actual sometimes physical decapitation. So we have to look at all of that. I'm going to get rid of this because it's distracting me here as I look at myself. It's probably distracting you too, so let me get rid of that. So let's look more into what is Medusa. So since Medusa is a mythological creature, we want to take a look at the significance of that. And as you know, if you really look at the names of mythological beings and you look at what they do, where they came from, it will give very powerful, life-changing information. And so we are going to take a look at that. Let me see, what do I got underneath there? Okay, so we'll cover that up. So let's take a look at that. I've got some notes here. So bear in mind what's going to happen is on, what was the date that I said? November 19th, 2021. at exactly the complete, I don't have it written down here. I'll do another video about this, by the way. The complete eclipse is going to be, I believe, at around 4:30 in the morning in Eastern Standard Time, United States. So I was specifically looking at Washington, D.C., because as you know, I am of the opinion that the United States government has been completely taken over by the reptilian elite. I am not at all in favor of what the United States government is currently doing. I am not at all in favor of any of the lockdowns or the mandates. I believe it is easily the worst abuse of power I've seen, in just about any country anywhere. So I'm specifically interested to see what effect this will have on Washington, D.C. And as it so happens, Washington, D.C. will be under the full light of this lunar eclipse. So it's going to have some effect on it. So the lunar eclipse is going to be conjunct the star Algol, which is literally the decapitated head of Medusa. And this has been seen in this symbology was seen in multiple cultures. It was seen in, of course, the Greeks, the Romans, even the Arabic culture used this same mythology and understanding about this star. And in fact, it would represent all kinds of really nasty events. If people really wanted to go to war, they would wait until there was some bright shining from the star Algol. If they didn't, if the star Algol was not shining brightly, they would not go to war. And in Western magical astrology, the star Algol is used as a protective talisman to protect against demonic attack. And so the idea is that the eyes of Medusa are shining brightly. If you are somebody who is not in alignment, then what's going to happen is you are going to suffer the same fate as Medusa. You will suffer violence, you will suffer decapitation, all the things associated. Medusa, her hair is made up of serpents. Serpents represent poison, and one of the associations with serpents is viruses, poisons, illnesses, plagues, etc. You can make your own connotations on that. So let's talk about Medusa. So Medusa, as you know, she is a female, a gorgon. She's a demon. And when she looks at you, if you look her in the eyes, she will turn anyone into stone, which means she will paralyze you. She will completely, totally paralyze you by looking at you. You will be unable to move. Now your whole body becomes stone, which means your mind becomes stone, which means you can't think. You can't think, you can't move, you are stuck, you are completely paralyzed, turned to stone, which means that you are the undead. This means that she has the power to hypnotize you and paralyze you with her hypnosis. So there are different versions of the myth, but if we want to find out what she represents, we have to go find out where she came from. We have to find out the meaning of, if we can, find out the meanings of her names. I think I read somewhere that Medusa may come from the word having to do with guardian. So she represents a guardian between you and your unconscious. She lives in a cave. So that represents the unconscious. So Perseus over here, he has to go into the unconscious, into the cave, in order to defeat her. We'll get to him in a little bit. So you've got that. She's obviously associated with snakes, poison, illness, viruses, plagues, violence of all kinds, everything having to do with the unconscious, sociopathy. I mean, this is a great depiction of her. You know, she's headless. She's obviously lifeless, but her eyes have this, even though her eyes have no awareness, her eyes bring death, but she's clearly not conscious. This is the perfect depiction of a sociopath. Somebody that has no awareness, no empathy. They look at you, they can't see you, but their gaze, if they gaze upon you, they will destroy you without any, not only, they won't be angry, they won't be happy, they will have no feeling about it. They're the worst kind of monster, the sociopath. So Perseus represents the ability to defeat psychopathic derangement. Now, I am of the belief that the reptilian elites are, in fact, extreme sociopaths, to be able to do what they're doing. I can't talk about it on this channel. So, by the way, if you want to hear me talk uncensored, you can go to my other platforms, which is bitchute.com, bitchute.com, and then you look for thunderwizard.com. You can also go to odyssey.com, odyssee.com. I like it because it has my whole site up there, but it's glitchy, at least for me. So go to BitChute if you want to be able to see my most recent uncensored videos. All right, so Medusa. Medusa is the daughter of sea monsters. This is interesting. Phorcus and Ceto. Now, I haven't translated those names. If I did, we would be able to have more awareness. But these are sea monsters. So the ocean always represents emotions. Sea monsters, these are monsters that live deep in the ocean. These represent unresolved, unconscious issues. Always. Monsters that come out of the sea represents unresolved, unconscious emotions. So these two sea monsters, Phorcus and Ceto, they give birth to Medusa, and Medusa is also the sister of the Grayer. Now the Grayer are monsters also. There are three monsters whose names are Deno, Enyo, and Pemfredo, which translates as dread, horror, and alarm. This is really important. This is exactly what's happening. What is happening right now is that the entire world, the majority of the world, is being hypnotized with dread, horror, and alarm. And those that are not aware of what's happening are just blindly going along, doing what they are commanded to do, and they're telling themselves everything is okay. They literally are being controlled by dread, horror, and alarm. So these are the sisters of Medusa. She is also the sister of a demoness called Echidna, who is also called the mother of all demons. And Echidna is a half woman, half snake. Her bottom half is a snake, her top half is a woman. So the top of her, she's very beautiful. In fact, she's very alluring. Men can't resist her. She's irresistible, but she is a snake. She feeds on their flesh. She devours them raw. So this again, we have this theme of snakes. So the theme here is snakes. She has snakes in her hair. um, and all of her most of her family are snakes of some kind, which represents in this case, it doesn't represent the wisdom of the snake. It represents the sociopathic, black magic, power, poison, illness, viruses, plagues. It represents all of that. So this is what we are going to be experiencing, because this star Algol, the head of Medusa, this is going to be conjunct the moon, which is going to go into what do you call that? Sorry, I'm a little distracted. The moon represents your mind, your emotions, and we're going into an eclipse. So when the moon is eclipsed, the mind, the emotions becomes eclipsed. And it's going to be eclipsed by the power of the severed head of Medusa. Now, I can't help but see the association with Rahu. And what is Rahu? Rahu is the head of the snake, the decapitated head of the snake. And Rahu is also associated with viruses, plagues, unconscious, unresolved issues that drive you into actions based on lack of awareness, that get you into trouble based on greed and fear and things like that. So you get the dynamics surrounding this. So bear in mind, this can be very damaging only if you are not Perseus. Perseus is walking around, he's holding the head. Anybody who comes at him, he's going to be able to use the head of Medusa to slay all of his enemies, turn them to stone. He himself is not being turned to stone because he's not looking at her. He only sees the back of her head. He cannot see her. In fact, he has not looked her in the eye this whole time. So we'll get to how he does that and the symbolism behind that. By the way, I'm going to make another video about this, probably a live one, and I am going to be sharing with you a ritual. I am now concocting it. That's part of the reason I'm not able to finish my sentences, because as I'm talking to you, I'm concocting a ritual in my head based on all of this. We are going to do a magical ritual, which I will share with you in another video, that we are going to do together during this eclipse and in the days after the eclipse. I haven't decided yet, perhaps 9 days, and we together are going to take down the elites with this ritual. All right? So stay tuned for that. But for now, we're just going to understand what the meaning of it is, so you know what you're going to go into battle to do. All right? This is going to be very powerful, but we have to be like Perseus. We have to be true to our path, true to our commitment. We have to stay aligned with our right, true, authentic spirit. Otherwise, there's the danger of accidentally looking at Medusa in the eyes and suffering that fate. All right, so Medusa, as I said, is the daughter of Phorcys and Ketu, who are sea monsters. They represent unresolved, unconscious issues. She's sister of dread, horror, and alarm, which are being used by the elites to literally to paralyze people, so that they can get. The thing is, what the elites are doing right now, they cannot do if you don't comply. But if you become by dread, horror, alarm, because what's happened over the past year is that we have been subjected to trauma. We've been traumatized, and that has been seized upon by the elites to tell us completely irrational nonsense that people believe. People are out there spouting. People in government and people in positions of power are spouting complete nonsense that people just nod and do. They're not critically thinking about anything. They're just following what they're being told to do because they're paralyzed by dread, horror, and alarm. All right. So she's the sister of Echidna, the irresistible half woman, half snake. She's also the sister of Ladon, which is a serpent dragon, a male serpent dragon who is coiled around a tree in a garden, and that tree has the golden apples of immortality. So she has an association. Her brother, I believe it's her brother. Her brother is guarding the apples of immortality. So that means you have to get to immortality. You have to be able to defeat reptilian aspect within yourself. All right, so this is all of her mythological family and some of the meaning behind that. So there's multiple versions of her, but I like the latest version, which is that she was not born an evil monster. She was born with her two sisters that were evil, ugly monsters. But she was born a beautiful mortal woman. In fact, she was incredibly beautiful. And it was only after she was cursed by the goddess of war, Athena. She was cursed to be this incredibly hideous creature with snakes in her hair, and her eyes were so horrifically frightening and ugly that if she looked at you, you'd turn to stone. So how did that happen? She was this beautiful young mortal woman who ended up being impregnated by the god Poseidon, who did this act in Athena's temple. Athena did not like that. So what does this represent? You have the god of the sea, Poseidon. What is the sea? The sea is emotions. So this could represent conscious emotions of any kind. You know, whenever you dream that you're drowning, it means that you feel overwhelmed by your feelings. So the ocean represents feelings. And this is why meditation, when you see, any kind of depiction of meditation, you'll see some monk sitting beside a completely still pond that's reflecting the moon. The still pond represents his ability to, quote, master his emotions. So the feelings come and they go, but because he is able to tolerate all of his emotions and his emotional state of being and his impulses, he accepts all of that within himself. The representation of that is calm water. Poseidon, the god of the ocean, the god of emotions as well as unconscious issues, as well as impulses, desires, all the things associated with the unconscious and with emotions and feelings. He commits a sinful act by having sex. We don't know whether she was wanting to have sex with him or whether he forced himself on her. We don't know. The implication is that she was a willing partner because Athena cursed her, not Poseidon. So Athena is a virgin warrior, and she has a temple. So the thing about warriors, the thing about Mars, the god of war, is that he's very religious. And when he is in his highest awareness, he is a monk. He is somebody who does not indulge in fleshly desire. He is completely focused on defeating evil. When he is not defeating evil, he is in the temple meditating. He is practicing austerities. He is meditating. He is praying. He is fasting. He's doing all the things that religious people do because he represents purity. Now, she's a woman, and she's a virgin warrior, goddess of wisdom and war. So the last thing that she wants is for this dirty old man, this god of the ocean that's been around for ages. The last thing she wants is for him to commit adultery in her temple with some beautiful, lusty daughter of sea monsters. That is going to infuriate her. So obviously, from her perspective, she sees that Medusa was part of it, maybe even seduced him into it, but that she probably projected onto her, because Athena's a beautiful young virgin, and here's this beautiful young virgin who is defiled and by emotions, by all the unconscious. So it represents unbridled, just taking complete action on whatever emotion or impulse is flying through you. And this is totally antithetical to the warrior, especially the philosopher warrior code, which Athena would have been. So this was absolutely the worst possible sin that could have been done in her temple. So she cursed Medusa. Medusa went off to live in a cave, which meant, she went to go live in the underworld. She is, by the way, pregnant with two beings within her, the father being Poseidon. We'll talk about that if I get to it. All right, so that is how Medusa came to be who she is. All right, so what this represents, again, the act of having sex with being impregnated in the temple of Athena, this represents indulgence in betraying one's higher self for personal, selfish, emotional gratification. Again, narcissism, sociopathy. She looks that's what's so frightening about Medusa. She has no emotions. She has no awareness of what she's doing to anything or anybody. That's what makes her so frightening. That's why zombies are so frightening, because zombies are sociopaths. They represent, they're symbolic of sociopathy. They eat you, they bite you, they don't care whether you like it or don't like it. You're just food for them. All right. So now Perseus, how he gets involved in this is that he is sent on a suicide mission by a psychopathic. Again, we have this theme of sociopathy. He's sent on a suicide mission by a psychopathic king by the name of Polydectes. Perseus and his mother, didn't write her name down, they washed up on the shore of Polydectes' island kingdom. And he became enamored with lust for Perseus' mother. So Perseus stood between this king and his mother to protect her from him. And so in order to get rid of him, there was something happened. There was, I guess he, if I remember correctly, he's going to marry some other woman, and everybody has to come and bring him a gift. And Perseus, of course, is just this guy who washed up on shore. He doesn't have any money. And so he shows up and he doesn't have a gift. And so that is, I guess, punishable by death. So as a result of that, Polydectes sends him on this suicide mission and says, bring me back the head of Medusa and I won't kill you. So he's sent off on this suicide mission to bring back the head of Medusa. So he goes off. While he's off, it turns out that the king is abusive. In what way, I didn't find out. Abusive to his mother. Of course, he doesn't know that. Perseus is off getting Medusa's head. Now, along the way, somewhere along the way, he is given 3 gifts by the gods. He's given a bronze shield given to him by Athena. And he's given winged sandals by Hermes. And interestingly enough, he's given a helmet of invisibility by the god of the underworld, Hades. This is all very, very interesting symbology. So he knows that he can't look Medusa in the face. He knows that if he looks her in the face, she will turn him to stone. Or she won't do it. Just looking at her will turn him to stone. So he ends up. This is really interesting. He ends up using the gift of invisibility. The gift of invisibility is given to him by the god of the underworld, and it's a helmet. It's not a cloak. It's not a magic ring. It's a helmet. What does that represent? It represents critical thinking. It's a helmet. So it means the intellect. There's something about how he uses his intellect which gives him invisibility to this goddess or this monster of the unconscious. She was turned into this evil being because of her selfish indulgence in her unconscious betrayal of truth and righteousness, and in the place where you have to be the most aware and the most focused on your purity of your soul, Athena's temple. So she represents what happens to you when you betray that. And he is able to get past her and get to her and cut her head off, for one thing, because he's invisible to her. What makes him invisible to her is his critical thinking. He gets his critical thinking powers from the king of the underworld. So you don't become king of the underworld because you're either a resident there, you're a prisoner of the underworld, or you are the king of it. Just like Hela, if you are completely neutral emotionally, if you have the ability to look at your unconscious emotional agendas, your attachments, without any judgment, and you're able to take conscious action, that is critical thinking. The first step to critical thinking is being able to look deeply within your own self and seeing your own flaws and being honest and being transparent with yourself, no matter how painful or embarrassing it is. Medusa did not have that ability. None of these sea monsters have that ability. That's why they're monsters. So the king of the underworld, he's aware of all of this, and he is self-aware. So he gives this ability of critical thinking, this cap, this helmet, literally. Why critical thinking is so important. It's a helmet. It protects you, your thinking and your head. It's also interesting that he's wearing a helmet because, the gaze of her turns everybody to stone. And so it's not a cloak, it's not a shield, it's a helmet of invisibility, which means that, you have to have the ability to be able to see and think through your impulses, your desires. You must be self-aware and conscious. All the things that I teach about critical thinking. Now, he's also got this shield. Perseus has a shield. It's bronze, which lets me know how old this myth is, because if it wasn't written in the Bronze Age, it wouldn't have been a bronze shield. It would have been a golden shield, or it would have been would have been, just a regular, steel shield, because those would be better mirrors. So this is a mirror. That was just an interesting side note, bronze. So that must be when this was first, this myth was first, written, was in the Bronze Age. So he's got a bronze shield, which he uses as a mirror. So I'm teaching you about the mirror set. You want to know what the mirror hands, the butterfly hands, are all about, is to give you this ability of Perseus to be able to look on both sides of the issue, to not be trapped in the mirror, not be trapped by the gaze of unresolved, self-centered, greed, lust, fear. So you don't get trapped by that. You have to look at it through the mirror. So he doesn't look at her directly with his eyes, because if he did, she would turn him to stone. She would paralyze him. She would hypnotize him. And then he would be incapable of independent thought, independent movement, independent action, which is one of the representations of being turned to stone. You can't do anything. So in order to avoid that, he must look at her through the mirror. If he looks at her through the mirror, which is the self-reflection, meditation, all the things associated with meditation, which is seeing all of your thoughts and feelings and not having to take action on them. So if he has the ability to see her without attachment to his own unconscious, unresolved issues, then she can't paralyze him. But only if he looks at her through the mirror of meditation. So he is walking backwards, and he's got the shield in front of him, and he's using it, like on your car. It's so weird that we have that now. In my day, we didn't have that. We had to constantly look back and look at the mirror. No, we have this little screen that we look at. We back up as we're watching a screen. Well, he's got that. He's got his bronze mirror, which he's using to, he can't look over his shoulder to check and make sure. He has to only look at her through the mirror. And so he's able to find her because he is invisible, because of his critical thinking. She's asleep. That represents unresolved unconscious. Sleeping in a cave represents completely unaware of your issues. She is unaware. She's not threatened by him, so she doesn't wake up and attack him, because he has critical thinking. So he's able to bypass all of her normal, because sociopathic people are incredibly defensive. They react to the most, they project back on you what they do. I can't get into it now, but what the government is doing and what they're saying is a projection of their own issues onto everybody else. So he, with his critical thinking and his meditative ability to look at things through the mirror, he backs up, and then he's able to take out his sword and chop her head off. He chops her head off, grabs her by the hair, doesn't look at her, holds it in front of him, and then because he has Hermes' winged sandals, he's able to escape her sisters, which wake up. Of course, they hear what's happening. They wake up and they chase after him. And he's able to escape because of Hermes' winged sandals. So Hermes represents the intellect. He has the same connection as Odin. So what did I say? It represents, again, another aspect of critical thinking, which gives you speed to escape sociopaths. It also has the ability that you can communicate, and by communicating to sociopaths, you can destroy their reasoning. Like, for instance, if you sat me down, even though I'm not, I can't talk about that on this channel. If you were to sit me down with people in power and I had the ability to speak freely, and if I were able to do it in front of the world, I could, because I have critical thinking about the things that are going on with the current plague that we're experiencing, I would be able to show to the world the flaws in the thinking of the powers that be. And this represents Hermes' winged sandals, the speed with which you can communicate and outmaneuver the defense of the sociopaths that are seeking to enslave you and hypnotize you, destroy you. So these are his 3 gifts, and this is how he's able to get Medusa's head. So on his way back to save his mother from the sociopathic king Polydectes, he uses the head to just simply to turn his enemies to stone. So after he does that, he goes back and he destroys the man who is abusing his mother. He's able to save her. He turns Polydectes to stone by holding up the head of Medusa. And then he gives Medusa's head to Athena, who puts it on her war shield. This is the same idea behind the Aeschyalmer, the symbol that's used here on this deck of runes. The Aeschyalmer is the helm of awe, which represents destruction of corruption, the destruction of negativity. And so this is now same kind of thing. The Aeschyalmer was taken in battle by a hero from a dragon who was using it in a destructive way, and Sigurd got the Aeschyalmer from his brother Fafnir, who turned into a dragon, and he got it and brought it back to be used for good again. So this represents that same thing. So Athena takes this head of Medusa, which has the ability to turn people to stone by looking at it, puts it on what? A shield, which is a reflective thing, again, the mirror. So Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom, holds up a mirror to demons. And when demons see themselves, it frightens them and it makes them incapable of functioning. So in this upcoming lunar eclipse, what I want you to focus on is taking the sociopathic, evil intentions and actions of the reptilian elite and forcing them to look at themselves. In other words, taking their evil curse and turning it back onto themselves. And this is done through connection from the heart, critical thinking, being self-aware and staying true to your soul and not complying. Perseus could have complied. Perseus took the challenge. He went and took the suicide mission and believed in his heart and trusted his soul. And as a result, the gods gave him these gifts: the gift of critical thinking, the gift of communication, which gives you speed. It's her winged sandals. The gift of self-reflection, which is the bronze mirror, or the bronze shield mirror. You understand? So what else did I want to say? Now, there's more cool stuff which has to do with the plague that we're experiencing. So after giving the head of Medusa to Athena, who puts it on her shield, Athena gives some blood of Medusa's head, gives some of the blood to Asclepius. Asclepius is the god of medicine and healing. And Asclepius uses the blood from her left side as a poison that can kill. And he uses the blood from her right side as a magic potion that can raise the dead. So there's this healing. And as you know, venom is used in medicine all the time to heal. If the poison is put into the hands of a healer, the healer knows exactly how much and what to mix it with in order to use that poison to heal people, to raise them from the dead. So I found that very interesting. And the reason why I find that interesting is because I believe what will come from this. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be an eclipse. And this extremely destructive power of Medusa's head is going to be released. People are going to be blocked from their mind because that is an eclipse. A lunar eclipse means you're blocked from your mind. Your emotions will be damaged. It literally means people losing their head. When this happens, the cutting off of the head, the blocking of the emotions, people are going to lose their mind in their rage. And as you know, there are protests going on all over the world right now. So whether or not it happens on the date of the eclipse or not, I don't know. There's a 2-week period between the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, and the solar eclipse. But there's very likely, if there isn't going to be some uprising that may turn into violence, at the very least, it's going to be the impetus. It's going to start that. And people are going to start losing their minds. And the end result of that will be the healing. There will be healing that will come. The blood of Medusa will be used to, quote, kill evildoers and raise people from the dead. Those people who have been perhaps hypnotized and turned to stone, they will be resurrected. They will awaken to the truth. They will be able to be brought out of their delusion. If you've tried talking to people on the other side of this issue, I have, the level of they're just so blind. They believe whatever the mainstream media tells them. Even if it doesn't make any sense, they are totally bought into this crazy illusion. And they've been hypnotized. They're like stone. They've been turned to stone. Nothing. Everything you say just bounces off their forehead. Those people are going to be brought back to life as a result of the blood that is spilled from the reptilians. And by blood, I don't necessarily mean physical blood, although I don't know what's going to happen. During times of Algol, the star Algol, there oftentimes is violence. So who knows what that's going to be? But it's going to be happening when people they're going to be losing their mind because of the eclipse, and so who knows what kind of things are going to happen. Astrologically speaking, I'm talking as an astrologer here. I have no desire for this to happen, but as an astrologer, based on Joseph Biden's natal chart, the placement of this star in his chart could represent some threat to his health. So I kind of had a hit about that. We'll see. I'm totally happy to be wrong. I wish nobody any ill will or ill health, even if they are doing things I don't like. So I don't wish that. But sometimes astrology is so strong you can't avoid it. I've seen it with my eyes. People, if it's in their chart, there's just some things that you can't avoid, some karma. So there might be some health issues that he'll, if he was my client, I would say, be sure to take care of yourself. But we'll see what happens. Let's see what else. Other drops of blood were used. Other drops of Medusa's blood were used as a cure-all and as a poison. So the similar theme, that from the blood that will be spilled from the demons, which means the awareness that we see them for who they are. They are taken. Their power is taken from them, from our commitment to our soul and our unwillingness to comply with any unjust, forcible abuse upon us. As a result of that, the blood that is spilled from the reptilians will result in healing. It'll result in healing for those who deserve it, and it will result in poison, which I believe may be associated with some kind of justice for those who have acted sociopathically to the world. And there are a band of sociopaths with a lot of power that are indiscriminately causing the death and destruction of many people right now. And people are crying for justice. I am one of those people. So I'm going to make some other videos about this, and I'm going to give you, as I think it through, I'm going to come up with a 9-day ritual. I haven't decided when, but it might take place starting from the day of the eclipse, and then partway through the 2 weeks between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. But this is a very powerful time, and this is a time in which there is the ability, that we have the ability with our intention, with our spiritual practice, with our everything who we are. There's an opportunity for us to energetically and spiritually shift in this battle. You know, battles are like that. You know, anybody who watches, you know, I was watching Muhammad Ali fighting George Foreman. And there was a point in the battle where it just shifted, and Muhammad Ali just knocked him out cold. You know, and he was just sitting there rope-a-doping it, and he was just taking it and taking it and taking it, and then he saw his moment, and pop, 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 just took him out. And like that, the battle shifted completely in the other direction. And this is one of those moments. We're on the ropes. Those of us who are on the other side of the reptilian horde and their evil agenda, on the other side of their poison, we are on the ropes, and we're holding strong. And this is an opportunity where things can flip, and energetically and spiritually, we can end up defeating our enemies. So we'll talk about this more. And as I said, I will give you a ritual when I've thought it through. And we can do something to shift this evil that has come upon us. All right. So again, if you're new to my channel, go to thunderwizard.com and look for Warrior 90-Day Challenge. I'm going to be giving at least one ritual, but perhaps two. I may give a ritual to those who are following the Maoshan energy practices, which is demon fighting practices. And I will give one that those who aren't subscribed can use as well, because I want to give something for everybody. You can take your power back. If you want to learn the power of the shamanic demon fighting, you can go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com. But whatever you do, my friends, take good care of yourselves. And if you want to hear me talk uncensored about what you can do to protect yourself from this poison that is being given out, some people have already been poisoned by the reptilians. I talk about how you can overcome that and what you need to know about what's happening with that. And you can go to bitchute.com, bitchute.com, and look for thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard, DOTCOM. And then you can go to Odyssey, ODYSEE.com, and look for thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard, DOTCOM. look for me there. All right, that's it. And I'll see you when I see you.